So we're going to have a little look at some device issues that might crop up day to day. Because like everything, sometimes it's not always plain sailing and we can get issues with our devices. So I've got Chromebooks here first, if I can get my mouse to work. So there's a couple of issues that we see occurring with Chromebooks. The first one is that the read-write doesn't show up. And you can see the little icon there. Now, with the Chromebooks, the pupils generally go on to their Glow because they can mostly just do internet. They go on to Glow and then they access their Microsoft or their Google software from there. So the jigsaw puzzle piece, if it doesn't show up, what we need to do is we need to check what's going on with that device. So you would send us an email through Glow Admin usually and give us the serial number of the Chromebook. So you would find that in very tiny writing, I must say, on the back of your Chromebook, and you would quote that and say that read-write's not showing on this Chromebook. And what we would do is we would use that serial number to go into our management console. And usually it's just full up of storage, so we clear that a bit. Hopefully this is going to happen less and less because Jim's been working with Google on that. The other thing we get a lot of are breakages, and I'm going to show you a bit later on where you go to deal with those. We're going to mainly focus on iPad today. So when you get an iPad, it will be set up to one of 3 profiles, depending on what you requested when you ordered it. And each profile is slightly different because of the users that you've got using it. So first of all, we've got a teacher iPad, and that has to be very secure because of the information that may be contained on it. So it might have photographs taken in the class, it might have details of assessments or whatever else. So it needs to be really secure. So because of that, it needs a longer password, and that will be a mix of letters and numbers. The other thing that the teachers can do on their iPad that pupils can't do is they can access YouTube, and they can also hook up their iPad to their laptop to save files and photos if they need to. Then we've got our different types of pupil users. So a pupil individual iPad, it's got a 4-digit passcode that has to be entered before you can get into it. And that's because that iPad is only meant for one pupil and it shouldn't be shared with anybody else. And that's because the pupil individual profile has access to apps that only an individual should be accessing. So it will automatically sign them into those apps. And so we need to have that passcode on. We need to know that it's only been used by that user to protect the data within it. So for example, one of those apps would be Teams. So you can see why we wouldn't want anyone else to have access to that, because that would have all their work and other personal information like that. Pupil individuals don't have access to YouTube because YouTube has a minimum age for users of 13, and they don't have the ability to connect to a computer. So if a pupil needs to print something off or to put it on the computer for some reason, they need to then save this information into Glow and go onto a computer to do that, or they need to share it with their teacher. And they can do that either sharing through Glow or by airdropping it. And finally, we've got pupil group. So these iPads can be shared by pupils, so they don't have a passcode on them. So this is generally in classes where you've maybe not got so many iPads, or you've not got Connecting Scotland iPads. So Connecting Scotland iPads, they're set up as pupil individual because they will have been allocated to a certain individual. So pupil group don't have passcodes on them. They won't have the ability to install certain apps, so they can't install Teams, for example, because you wouldn't want anybody in that class to be able to access that data. They're also not able to access YouTube because of the minimum age requirements, and they don't have the ability to connect to a computer. So that's just a general overview of the iPad profiles. Now, sometimes we get a situation where Jamf isn't showing up on the iPad. Now, what Jamf is, it's our device management system. And I'll maybe just come out of this just now so I can show you what it looks like, because I've got a pupil iPad here. So here's the Jamf icon. You can see that here on my screen with the different colours. And what it means is that we can control all of those devices from a central location. So the Jamf self-service, that's where the teachers and pupils will go to get apps installed onto their iPad. So they just click on it and then they can search for apps from there. They don't go into the App Store, so they mustn't go into the App Store. And if you ever get a message on a school iPad asking you to sign into the App Store, then you know that something's not right. Now, if apps don't install, it could be because of the age of the iPad. It could be because the iOS hasn't been updated, or it could be because of the profile of the iPad, like we discussed in the previous slide. So we can go into settings to find that out. So we've got the settings cog down here. And I'm just in the general part of my settings here. So depending on where you are last, it could be in one of the other ones, but I'm in general. And I can click on About to find out a little bit about my iPad. So I can see on this iPad I've got here that it's 9th generation. So it should be fine. It should be able to update to our latest iOS. If you've got anything that's maybe 6th generation or under, you're going to struggle. It's not going to update very far. The next place you can have a little look, if we go back, is in software update. So in here, it's going to show you if you need a software update. So you can see on my iPad, I need to update it to 17.3. If you've got a message on your iPad that's saying, oh, it's updated to iOS 12 or iOS 13, then that's giving you a clear sign that you've got an older iPad and it will probably struggle with some apps. So I would need to go in and download and install that, and you would probably do that overnight. Make sure that it's plugged in when you're doing that as well. The teachers can do that, the pupils can do that. You don't have to be doing that, but it does need to have over 50% at least, or plug it in to do that. But let's see what happens if Jamf isn't working. So what we would need to do is I'm going to go back into General, and the first place that I would check would be my VPN and device management. So you can see that down here. So I'd click on that, and then I'm going to go into MDM profile and look at more details. And you can see here on my iPad that I've got loads of things. Now, I don't need to know what all these things are. I don't know what all these things are. But if you've only got 2 or 3 things showing, then something isn't right. And that'll mean that your iPad needs to be rebuilt. And what that means is that we have to wipe the iPad and start again. And when we wipe the iPad, it loses that connection to the AC mobile. And unfortunately, we do need to connect to the internet again as part of the process. Okay. So with the iPad, and that's one of the examples when it might need a reset. Sometimes there can be issues where we can't do anything else except for reset it and start all over again. And you might come to myself or Jim for advice about that. And we might say to you, well, that's all you can do is just reset it. So when Jamf doesn't appear on the iPads, that's one of the times, although that is really quite unusual. But we also have instances perhaps where someone has moved on to a different school, and then you need to erase all their data because you don't want any data left on that iPad before you then give it to someone else. Or it could be because it isn't installing the apps properly. So before you go through the process of resetting an iPad, you just need to make sure that you save any photos, videos, or documents that you want to keep. So the best thing would be to advise the teachers or the pupils to make sure they're uploading that to their Glow OneDrive or their Glow Google Drive, for example, because it is going to wipe everything off that iPad. If in any doubt, check with us first, because there's no going back once you've done that. Now, I have got a video showing you the process here, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to hear the sound. Yeah. Today we're going to have a little look at how we can reset our iPad, because there might be some situations where we have to do this. So first of all, we're going to go into our settings. And then when we're in our settings, we should make sure that we're in General and scroll down to Transfer or Reset iPad. Now we want to select Erase All Content and Settings. We're going to say Continue, and we're going to pop in the passcode for this iPad. We have to agree to erase the iPad. It gives us the warning. And now it's going to set itself to erase. We'll come back in a little minute once this is done. Okay, now we can see that the iPad has reset back to factory settings. We're going to press the Home button. And now we select our language. So we select English. And we scroll down to find our country. There we go. And tap on that. I'm going to click on Set Up Manually. And then you're going to add your network. So if you're doing this at school, you're going to have to wait until 3 o'clock when My Aberdeenshire comes back on. If you've got a phone handy, then you can create a hotspot and link to that, or you can take your iPad home and join the network at home. And I just click on Join. Now it's going to activate my iPad and start setting things up for me. Your iPad is managed by Aberdeenshire Council, and we use the JAM system. So we're just going to click on Next. And it's going to configure the iPad to the configurations that we've got set up within the local authority. Enable location services, and now we just leave it to do its thing. It's going to install the apps that it needs, and it will install Jamf on there as well, and it will join to the AC mobile network. And that's it. What do you do if you don't know the password in order to get into the settings to wipe it? So sometimes we've got pupils or staff who move on to a different school, and obviously they leave the iPad back at the school, you know, if you've paid for that out of your per capita or whatever. And sometimes folks don't always remember to leave the code to get back into that iPad for the next person. So if the iPad is connected to the internet, then you can get in touch with us with the asset number of the iPad, and we can wipe the passcode remotely from here. And once that's done, you'll then get a message on the iPad telling you to reset the passcode. If it's not connected to the internet, then the iPads are all set up so that if you enter the wrong code 10 times, it will automatically wipe the device. That's a real pest to do, because entering it 10 times, you know, that takes a bit of time, but it is the way to get around it. And then you'll have to go through that process of rebuilding the iPad like I showed you in the video. So sometimes the iPad might not connect to the internet. And it's not hugely common either, but it's handy for you to know about this too. And you've got no idea why AC Mobile, you've got no idea because AC Mobile is appearing there. And that's probably because the proxy settings are on. So I'm going to go into the proxy settings on my iPad so you know where to go for that. So again, we're going to go into the settings. And this time we're going to select Wi-Fi. Now here it would show AC mobile, but I'm not in a school today, I'm at home, so it's on my internet. But you would go into this little eye that's here. And then down at the bottom of the page, and I'm going to need to move this out of the way, where it says HTTP proxy, configure proxy, we need to make sure that that is turned to off. Okay, so it shouldn't be turned on. And that should solve that problem for you. Now, I had a question the other day about removing the news widget and icon from the iPad. Sometimes there can be content that pops up in the news that you feel perhaps isn't appropriate for pupils, and the teachers may wonder how to remove it. Or there might be other apps that you feel they're cluttering up the iPad and you don't need them there anymore. So it's nice and simple to get rid of them. So I've taken some screenshots here. So what you would just do is you would press and hold on that icon that you want to remove, and it comes up with a little information block, and in red it'll say remove app, and you simply click on that. It'll ask if you're sure about removing it, and then you can just tap on delete app, and it's as simple as that. So yeah, you just press and hold until the menu comes up. Sometimes if you hold too long, all the apps will jiggle about and they'll have a little minus on it. And again, you can just click on that. I want to show you where you can find how to order a new iPads, new Chromebooks, and new Windows machines, because your head teacher might ask you to do that. Okay. So hopefully you can see my Teams page where I've got Viva Arcadia now. Jim, can you just confirm?
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, perfect. So we're just going to go into my job at the top here, and then we're going to click on IT Hub, and that's going to come up. I'll just drag that over. It's going to come up in your Microsoft Edge and take you straight into that IT Hub. And then we are going to look at this IT service catalogue, which you see here. Okay, so we click on that. And under user services, we can see that there's a section for procurement. So we click on procurement and it gives us a bit of information about what we can procure and so on. And you'll see a link for the IT hardware catalogues. And when you're in here, you'll be able to find everything that you need in terms of purchasing IT equipment, information on repairs, and what to do with old kit that needs to be disposed of. So we can scroll down and you can see, nice and easy to find, we've got our classroom desktops and laptops. So that's your Windows machines, Chromebooks and iPads, and you simply click on where you want to go and it will show you what pieces of kit you can buy. Now, we would suggest that for your pupils, this is absolutely fine, 64 gigs, because what they should be doing is they should be getting into the habit of saving any work off of their iPad and into the cloud onto their Glow. So they don't need anything more than 64 gig, and that's going to save you a whack of money. We would also suggest that you get them a case as well to go with it, because that's going to help to increase that longevity of your iPad by keeping it a bit safer. So you can see what to do there, and then you just click on order tablet and accessories, and it's going to create a ticket for you so that you can order them. Let's go back. Right, down at the bottom here, so I just went back one page onto this ordering page. You can see we've got repair and disposal information. So if we click on repairs, you're going to find out exactly how you can send away anything for repairs. It's very detailed here. You can look at the Simply Fix It repair service. There will be some things that are just beyond repair and you're just going to have to purchase a new one. You can ask us for advice as to whether or not we think that it will be worth repairing, or if you just need a new one, because sometimes if it's just a screen that's broken, for example, on an iPad, That'll maybe cost you £70, which is a lot cheaper than buying a whole new iPad. So you can ask us for advice as well. And then disposal too. So you might have ancient old kit that's lying around, maybe those iPads that I was speaking about earlier, where they can't update them any further. You need to click on disposals and they will pick things up for you. Okay, and you again just log that disposal ticket. So who is it best to contact? If you have got any queries about SEEMIS, then you're best to contact Miss Support. Wendy's brilliant. She will answer all your questions. She's so supportive. You saw that today already. So there are some links here, and I can share this presentation with you as well to find out how to log your calls with SEEMIS. But you probably know that already. If you've got any issues with iPad and Glow, you need to come to myself or Jim. Jim is the Glow guru, as you saw. So you can get to either of us from the Glow admin email here, or you can email us individually. That's our details there. If you've got issues with interactive whiteboards in your class, Steve Shinney within our team, he can help to support you with that. He does a lot of work with CleverTouch and Smart.
That's good.
And we have got who to contact for Windows and corporate machines. That would be logging a ticket with IT. So you just go into Viva Arcadia, click on My Job, and go to the IT hub, and you can log a ticket from there.